Hello, students, and welcome to Human Growth and Development. I hope you have been anticipating our course and you're ready to get underway. When we look at human growth and development, we wonder sometimes, how does this course fit into our program? Oftentimes we think, well, it's just another course. There's more information that I need to understand and consume. But think with me about how we go about to develop our cases for treatment. For example, a 9-year-old child, 15-year-old teenager, a 45-year-old woman, or 85-year-old man. When we approach cases such as these, we ask questions about, well, what would be the typical 9-year-old child or teenager, middle-aged woman, or elderly man? To understand what the typical person would be, in order to understand these particular individuals, we need to know about human growth and development. The more we know about human growth and development, the better able we're going to be to diagnose, conceptualize treatment, select therapies, and to go ahead and proceed with our counseling. For example, a 9-year-old child, what are the types of things that take place in a 9-year-old child's life? What about the child's upbringing? For example, even prenatally, a young child, such as a toddler, attachment patterns. What might be the impact of having a single parent versus having both mom and dad? These are things we would want to know in treating a 9-year-old child. And then a 15-year-old teenager. We're thinking in terms of individuals whose body is changing and maturing. There are oftentimes challenges with authority figures like mom and dad, issues of peer groups, sometimes substances are a part of the picture. Well, what would be the typical world of a 15-year-old that we could access and understand in order to best treat this 15-year-old? The 45-year-old woman, many questions come to our mind in terms of gender, culture, marital status, whether or not this individual has children, this woman has children. Vocation also comes to mind. We want to understand the world of a middle-aged woman in order to best treat this particular person. And then an 85-year-old man. Yeah, there are special challenges and information having to do with this stage of life. We're thinking about the medical care of an 85-year-old, living conditions, family, if any, that this individual might have. In other words, human growth and development brings to us a wealth of information that helps us to better understand each of these stages of the lifespan. We can take all this information that we learn from human growth and development and actually categorize it in useful ways. For example, many clinicians and others look at each individual biologically, psychologically, socially, and spiritually. We could do that for each of these 4 cases. But in order to understand where these particular individuals are biologically, psychologically, socially, and spiritually, we would want to have a broad context of information through the lifespan so that we can compare and contrast in terms of the person who is sitting before us. So this is where development comes in. These great advantages that come our way because we know our clients better. When we look at this course, we'll find that there are several parts of the lifespan that will be our focus. In fact, all of them, from prenatal stage, before birth, birth, the newborn infant, infancy. Of course, we're not going to have individuals that young coming for counseling, but it's vitally important for us to understand the types of issues that come into play at that stage of life that have a great impact later on. Preschool, middle childhood, of course, adolescence, early adulthood, middle adulthood, and late adulthood. Our course outcomes, we have 7 of them. We want to examine theories of individual and family development and transitions across the lifespan. There's a lot of both past and present thinkers that afford for us several different theories. Not that we're going to embrace one theory over another, but we want to be able to access the information that comes from these researchers. We want to know how theories of learning and personality come into play in understanding the biological, neurobiological, and physiological influences upon development and behavior. How do people learn? How are personalities developed? How can we see this throughout the lifespan, especially during the younger years? The third course outcome is interpret human behavior, including the effects of crisis, trauma, environmental, and systemic factors. It's not a course on crisis and trauma, but we certainly want to look at crisis and trauma and these systemic problems through the lens of human development. And then the fourth, identify theories and ideology of addictions. We're going to look at crisis and trauma, but also addictions through, again, this vantage point of development. A fifth outcome is to explain a general framework for differing abilities and strategies for differentiated interventions, not a course on interventions, on therapies, but along the way, we want to know what are the things that are best used, what are the therapies that are best used as we look at some of these more important issues that people in different points of the lifespan are facing. The sixth, employ ethical and culturally relevant strategies for promoting resilience and optimum development. We want to think in terms of ethics. We want to think about culturally relevant strategies for resilience and optimum development. It's not just about pathologies, about diagnosis, about fixing problems. It's also about how to promote wellness, which has more to do with prevention rather than treating problems. The final seventh course outcome is to critique the philosophical assumptions of contemporary human development and demonstrate the use of the Christian worldview. Increasingly, spirituality is seen as a vital part of the therapeutic enterprise. We want to best understand this, and from our vantage point, the Christian worldview affords this to us. So the importance of this subject matter is seen in the fact that this course is required for licensure for the state and many other organizations such as CACREP accreditation and national boards. The information is invaluable. we can utilize it not just to get a license, obviously, but in practical concerns of cases. Finally, look with me at John Doe, a 19-year-old in the fall semester of his freshman year of college and suffering from depression. What is the typical world of a 19-year-old? Human growth and development is going to teach us about that. And then in terms of the categories, biologically, psychologically, socially, and spiritually, we want to know about John Doe. Biologically, he's at college, perhaps sleep deprivation, perhaps not the best diet, maybe not exercising. Psychologically, does he have a predisposition toward depression? How many people, or what percentage of people in his age bracket, in his life stage, have these sort of challenges? We know that those from about 19 to 25 are very much predisposed to the serious pathologies. And then socially, he's away from home. He's away from friends associated with his home. What is it like at this college? What is it as far as the connections that he is making, if any? We know from human growth and development how very, very important this is. And then spiritually, he may have been a part of a church back at home. He may have had a vital spiritual life back then, but we know from our studies that oftentimes students such as this lay aside their spiritual pursuits when they go away to college. So once again, I hope I've made the case how important human growth and development is. As you undertake this class and study through this material, I hope you'll see and remember how important this material is. I know as a counselor myself, the people that I see each week, I am always going back to the information that was gleaned back when I took human growth and development. So I hope you take it in a very serious way. I hope you complete the assignments the best you can and receive the greatest benefit possible. Take care.